We've got 20 incredible videos lined up for you in this episode, including Cybertruck crashes, road rage assaults.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me.
Incredibly bad Tesla drivers and much more. Buckle up.
Teslacam. Hope you're satisfied.
Steven was driving his brand new Cybertruck in New Brighton, Minnesota. As he approached an intersection with stopped traffic, he moved over to the left lane. An oncoming driver began to turn left just as Steven approached her, leaving him with no way to avoid a collision. Her car literally bounced off the Cybertruck during the impact before immediately beginning to smoke. Steven told us he hit the brakes as soon as he saw her turning, but the wet road surface made it impossible for him to stop in time. Steven called 911 and the emergency operator told him they'd try to send police officers, but after an hour, Steven gave up waiting. There were no injuries, so the two drivers exchanged information before both driving away. The Tesla collision repair shop gave Steven an initial repair estimate of about $7,000, but he expects it to climb higher since they couldn't see all the damage in the photos he sent them. What really grinds Steven's gears is that he waited 4.5 years to take delivery of his Cybertruck. Now he's back to waiting to see when he'll get it back from the shop. Eddie was driving his Model Y in Westland, Michigan, when he suddenly noticed an SUV approaching rapidly from behind. At first, it looked like the SUV was crossing over the solid line to pass him, but then it shifted direction again and ran straight into the back of Eddie's Tesla. His SUV made a full 360-degree turn before coming to a stop, pointing back in the right direction. The other SUV careened off the road and stopped on the sidewalk in a cloud of smoke. Eddie rushed out to check on the other driver, who was unhurt. It turned out he'd experienced a medical emergency, which caused him to momentarily lose consciousness before he rear-ended the Tesla. Eddie filed an insurance claim, and his Tesla was deemed a total loss. This submitter was sitting at a red light in his brand new Model Y. When the light turned green, he slowly started entering the intersection when, wham! A pickup driver from the left had run their red light and T-boned our submitter's Tesla. Both drivers were able to walk away from the collision, and it came as no surprise to our submitter that the insurance provider chose to total his Tesla. Chloe was driving her brand new Model 3 down Highway 19 when a U-Haul driver left their lane and hit Chloe's Tesla on the driver's side. The impact forced Chloe to strike a Jeep on her passenger side, which caused the Jeep to lose control, hit a barrier, and roll over. The U-Haul driver initially stopped, but then they hit the gas and fled the scene. Chloe immediately called 911. She wasn't hurt, but the shock she felt was nothing compared to what she was about to face when she was accused of causing the collision. Witnesses who'd stopped behind the Jeep confirmed that Chloe had left her lane and struck the Jeep, but they said nothing about the U-Haul truck. When Chloe told the police about it, they said, "What U-Haul truck? There's no U-Haul truck here." Chloe showed the police this footage, and they told her that without it, they would have found her responsible for the collision. This incident is a great example of why everyone should have a Teslacam, or at least a Dashcam. Clearwater police did follow up with the U-Haul renter, but she claimed she wasn't driving the truck during the collision, and she didn't know who was. She told the police it must have been stolen from her driveway after she left the keys in it, and these mysterious truck thieves later returned the truck and the keys to her driveway after the collision. With the police unable to prove otherwise, she wasn't held responsible for the collision, and the police closed the investigation the same day. According to them, the Teslacam footage alone isn't good enough to definitively prove the identity of the U-Haul driver. The Jeep driver was unlicensed, further complicating the insurance process. In the end, Chloe's insurance provider totaled her Model 3 after the repair estimate exceeded $30,000. Wazzy was driving his Model Y down a highway in San Diego when he suddenly spotted his exit and quickly merged over. He confesses he zoned out, and before he knew it, he was approaching the turn too fast. Wazzy chose to slam on the brakes, worried about what would happen if he couldn't make the turn. Thankfully, the brakes performed admirably, slowing him down just before he reached the dirt area before the highway. It was a close call, but Wazzy told us he's glad he managed to avoid what could have been a fatal mistake. After this incident, Wazzy invested in full self-driving. Now, his car drives him around, keeping everyone safe from his questionable driving skills. Wazzy told us that the main reason he sent us this video was as a sobering reminder to other drivers to stay focused. Life can change or end in the blink of an eye. Jared was driving his Cybertruck down a highway in Ogden, Utah. He was stuck behind traffic in the passing lane, moving with the flow of traffic. Suddenly, he noticed a pickup truck getting closer and closer to his rear bumper. Jared had a feeling he knew what was about to happen. Sure enough, when the express lane opened up, the pickup huffed and puffed, working hard to speed up next to him. But the pickup didn't speed past him. Instead, it matched his speed to drive just ahead of Jared before a gorgeous compensation display. Jared wanted to clarify that many of the diesel exhaust attacks we see online aren't intentional, they're just modified trucks that no longer comply with emissions regulations. That said, this video might be the best evidence we've ever seen that some pickup drivers definitely target other drivers they don't like. After holding up the express lane for a while, the triggered pickup driver merged in front of Jared's Cybertruck. Have we mentioned that Cybertrucks are equipped with bioweapon defense mode and they filter 99.97% of airborne particles out of the cabin? The pickup driver then adorably gunned her engine, slowed down, then accelerated again over and over. Based on that smoky mating display, we assume the truck caught fire shortly thereafter, although Jared didn't confirm that theory. Eric was heading west on I-84 toward the Troutdale Supercharger when he suddenly heard a loud bang on the right side of his car. Eric wasn't sure what had hit his Tesla, but he didn't think it could have been much until he reached the supercharger. When he reviewed his Teslacam footage, he discovered that a man walking on the side of the interstate had thrown a glass bottle at his Tesla as he drove past. Eric immediately went back and spotted the man still wandering on the side of the highway. He called 911 and a sheriff's deputy responded and spoke with Eric in person. Eric showed him the video footage and pictures, but the deputy told him the footage was too grainy, and besides, the culprit had already walked into some bushes by the time the deputy had arrived. Eric hasn't filed an insurance claim yet. He's hoping that someone will see this video and help him identify the bottle-throwing vandal. If you know who he is, send us a message and we'll pass the info along. Eric told us Wham Baam Teslacam is partly responsible for him getting a Tesla. He'd hoped he'd never have a video to send us, but he also knows our viewers have helped others identify criminals in the past, and he'd really appreciate your help. Ashpinder jumped into his Model 3 to head home after meeting a friend. He was traveling northbound on Burrard Street in downtown Vancouver. While he was driving at about 20 miles per hour, he entered an intersection on a green light before feeling a heavy impact from the left. The driver of a Honda Civic ran his red light before slamming into Ashpinder's Tesla at full speed. After the collision, Ashpinder immediately ran to the other driver in anger to ask if he was under the influence. The Honda driver denied being under the influence and claimed he'd fallen asleep after driving for 5 or 6 hours. Ashpinder called the police right after the collision, but their response time was disappointing. He waited for them at the scene for at least 2 hours before giving up and heading home. Almost 3.5 hours after the incident, Ashpinder received a call from a police officer asking where he was and why he wasn't at the scene. When Ashpinder told him he'd gone home, the officer told him there was nothing he could do. Ashpinder made an insurance claim, without a police report of course, and his insurance provider decided to total the car and write Ashpinder a check for the remaining value of his 2022 Tesla Model 3. Whoa, what was that? Our submitter was driving in Lisbon, Portugal when he witnessed something crazy happening in the sky above him. Thankfully, we were able to look online and figure out what this was. The European Space Agency reported that on May 18th, a comet fragment burned up in the atmosphere above Spain and Portugal. That is what our submitter saw, and you know what they say, if you see a falling comet fragment, you'll be granted a wish. Our submitter wished that you'd make sure you're still subscribed to Wham Baam Teslacam. Seriously, he did. We're so close to 1 million subscribers, so make sure YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you by hitting the red subscribe button if you see it. Thanks so much. Kimmy Cheeks was driving northbound on Highway 101 in Los Angeles when Mad Max started pulling up quickly behind her. The fast-approaching vehicle suddenly spun out of control after the hood flipped up and obstructed the driver's view. Kimmy Cheeks' boyfriend saw what was happening and shouted to warn her, so she punched the juice pedal to avoid being hit. Phew, that was a close one, but look at the existing damage to the vehicle. Obviously, this wasn't its first rodeo. We actually had trouble figuring out what it was. Is it a Porsche Cayenne? If you can identify it, post your answer in the comments. Leah was driving her Model Y when she activated her turn signal for a left turn up ahead. When she started slowing down, she noticed the car behind her wasn't slowing down. Leah hit the juice pedal when she realized the other driver wasn't stopping, and the other car darted off the road to avoid rear-ending her Tesla. Leah turned around to make sure the driver was okay, and thankfully she was. The driver was very friendly and felt horrible, and she told Leah she'd contact the town and let them know about the sign. While Jordan was headed home in his new Model 3, he encountered 3 pedestrians crossing against a don't walk signal while his own traffic light was green. When Jordan stopped to let them cross, one of them got upset and approached Jordan's Tesla before kicking the front and side window. Out of concern for his safety, Jordan swiftly maneuvered away, worried they might be armed or getting ready to escalate the situation. Thankfully, there was no visible damage to his car's front lid or the window where the pedestrian had struck it with her hand. What would you do in a situation like this? Would you get away or confront the attacker? Let us know in the comments. Here's another video from San Francisco. Kyle was sitting at a red light when the bus in the bus lane got a green light. As the bus pulled away, a black SUV sporting a huge push bumper, spotlights, and a ton of extra antennas pulled up and took its spot in the bus lane. We've got to wonder what government organization owns that bus. As it turned out, the Honda driver behind it was about to find out. When the light turned green, the Honda driver followed after the black SUV, then moved over to cut Kyle off, and that's when instant justice struck. The unmarked cop lit up his party lights and pulled the Honda over, and nobody ever heard from the Honda driver again. We've got more videos out of San Francisco, and they just keep getting crazier and crazier. This one's from Josh, who was sitting at a red light when he watched a bus driver road raging with another driver. The bus swerved from the wrong side of the road and over a double solid line, nearly colliding with Josh. Apparently, the bus driver did that just so she could throw multiple full water bottles at a white SUV. That's when Josh noticed this bus company transports elderly people between nursing homes. Josh decided to follow her to her workplace so he could confront her and ask her why she would drive like that with elderly people on the bus. The situation didn't go as planned, as she got very aggressive, then got help from some kid who proceeded to assault him. He filmed the entire interaction for his own safety.
He's harassing me, sir, and I'm about to press charges on you for harassing me. No, because now he's harassing me.
It's state law. You can't record people without their consent.
No expectation of privacy. I'm not filming you, bro.
Okay. You're harassing her.
Call the cops.
Film me.
Call the cops then.
Yeah, I don't call the cops. I'm born and raised here. I do it.
Okay.
But I don't know what's going on there, but that's not legal. She doesn't have consent for you to record her either.
No
You're
expectation of privacy.
You're willfully committing a
Call the
crime.
cops then.
We're calling the police.
Do it. Okay. I already called them.
I know. You should.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me, bro. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Oh, you're touching me now.
Don't touch me. I'm walking away from you, bro.
Yeah, you touched me.
Get out of my face, bro.
You're touching me, bro. Okay.
You assaulted me. Get out of my face.
me.
It's self-defense. Get the away from me.
Josh had already called the police, and they quickly arrived. The kid who'd assaulted Josh then wanted Josh charged with assault after Josh pushed him away. Thankfully, the police sided with Josh. The bus driver's employer also arrived, and he was very interested in seeing the Teslacam footage. The San Francisco police gave Josh an incident number. The bus driver's employer asked him to email all of his video footage. Let's hope her employer at least sent her to remedial driving school or something, because that sure was a wild ride for her elderly passengers. Jonathan's neighbor was getting something out of his back seat when a Toyota Corolla smashed into his driver's door, missing him by inches. Jonathan, who was inside his house, looked out his front door to see what had happened. He then told his neighbor to give his Tesla's door handle a pull so Sentry mode would save the recording. Good idea. The Corolla driver just took off without stopping. An hour later, Jonathan was leaving to visit a supercharger when he spotted the Corolla driving through the neighborhood, evidently looking for the car they'd hit. Jonathan flagged her down and put her in touch with his neighbor. The Corolla driver was 88 years old and she didn't even realize she'd almost crushed someone. Jason was about to leave a supercharger when someone backed into one of the stalls. Jason got out and asked if he could help in any way, but that's when the guy started complaining about how bad Teslas are, which struck Jason as a little strange. Perhaps he'd rented it? Jason pointed out that the charging port was on the other side of the Model 3 before going back to his own car. As he pulled away, he did notice that the other driver had finally managed to get plugged in. Yojo's Tesla was parked in a hospital parking lot when Sentry mode was triggered by someone who must have been in an extreme rush to get to the hospital. A helicopter came in for a landing in the parking lot. We looked it up, and the helicopter belongs to a company called D-Heart and is piloted by a guy who was an Air Force combat pilot for 2 decades. This might explain that daring landing. If you ever have the unfortunate need to be airlifted by this chopper, your bill will be a cool 15 grand. Even with that price tag, D-Heart isn't a moneymaker. It operates right around break-even considering the high costs of equipment and fuel. Their mission is saving lives in the remote areas of New England. Ethan had been traveling behind a vehicle hauling a boat on a trailer for the past several miles, and they seemed to be driving normally with nothing out of the ordinary. Suddenly, the vacation was about to be ruined. Ethan noticed the driver started drifting onto the shoulder. Thanks to a recent storm, there was no shoulder. The trailer's wheels got caught on the jagged edge of the road, spinning it and the truck across both lanes. Ethan later learned the whole thing had been caused by a tire going flat in the worst possible place for it to happen, thanks to the missing shoulder. Ethan asked the couple in the truck how he could help, and they asked him to call 911 for them. Ethan shared his footage with them and stayed to give a statement to first responders. The sheriff's office later called him to request a copy of his Teslacam footage so they could determine whether the driver or the roadway was at fault. What do you think? Is this the first video we've featured of a road being responsible for a collision? Ash was driving in the UK when the driver of a white Honda Civic made an unsafe lane change, causing a collision with a red Model Y. Ash didn't understand the magnitude of the collision after it happened, so he kept going. It wasn't until he later reviewed the footage that he understood what had really happened. Ash found this picture posted on a Facebook group for Tesla owners in the UK. He hopes everyone involved was okay. If you want to see more crazy videos from Europe, check out this video where we compiled our most viewed Teslacam videos from Europe.